My name's Weston Brake, and I'm from Western Michigan University. I think an opportunity to be able to come in front of experienced professionals who have industry experience and working along with our mentor through our university and our industry expert. Working with those people was the most exciting for us. I think the challenge was a little harder than expected. Our advisors did a really good job of telling us what kind of expectations they had, but that can only go so far, and the research that we did getting started was a little harder than expected. I think it gives me a really good opportunity to look into analysis of financial markets in specific companies. It'll give me experience talking to people who are currently in the market or currently in employment. Oh, absolutely. Going from fundamental research to doing analysis for prediction and future growth of a company, and then coming and presenting it to financial professionals, it's a perfect example of everyday experience or real-world experience. All right, well, we are the Western Michigan University Chartered Financial Analyst Institute Research Challenge Team. My name is Weston. I'll be going over a company overview. Mike will be going over an industry overview. Nisha will be taking investment risk, and Catherine will be taking valuation. Herman Miller actually started as a retail office furniture manufacturer. In the 60s, they switched their focus towards office seating ergonomics and office system solutions. Quickly, they became the leaders in innovative product design and research and development, and we feel as though they are at the top of the market currently. Herman Miller's ability to seek opportunities comes in the cost of their Toyota production system, which allows them to have flexibility with production for inputs in the products that they acquire relating to their suppliers, and flexibility with employees for temporary use for overtime. And we feel as though this cuts down marginal costs with Herman Miller. Herman Miller's most recent acquisitions come in the form of healthcare and expansion into the Asian markets. And we feel as though that the acquisitions of Nemshoff and Posh, with established distribution centers and with brand recognition, this will increase market share for both of those respects of the market. And as of late, the reissue of their e-commerce website is expected to increase the availability to their retail home furnishings with easy-to-access markets and for search for specific products. And next, we'll have Mike with the industry overview.
Yep, I'm going to go over a brief overview of the industry that Herman Miller competes in. As stated before, 53% of their revenues come from the U.S. office and government segment. 14% of their total revenue is the U.S. government alone, making them their single largest customer. This places large emphasis on forecasting U.S. industry data when it comes to estimating Herman Miller sales. Now, BIFMA is the only single source that tracks U.S. industry data, and you can see from this graph there's a strong correlation between U.S. office consumption and Herman Miller sales. BIFMA had forecasted a 14.3% increase in 2011 and a 1.3% increase in 2012. Another good indicator is non-residential construction. The Architectural Billing Index leads this by about 9 to 12 months. Though showing recent declines in the last few months, it's starting to pick up and signal growth. This is confirmed by Reed Construction data, which predicts a growth of 5.3% in 2012 and 8.1% in 2013. Now, Herman Miller is pursuing a strategy to move away from this dependence on the U.S. markets. According to the IMF, the U.S. is going to enter a stage of recovery growth at around 2 to 3% until 2016, while the euro area remains weak at under 2% growth while they deal with their debt crisis. However, developing Asia will remain strong at about 8% growth. This will mean more office space being used, and thus the demand for office furniture will increase. Herman Miller is not the only one. He has a number of competitors. Publicly, Herman Miller and Knoll focus on the high to mid price points, while Steelcase, the largest manufacturer, served a broader market, while H&I Kimball served the value market. They also compete with a number of private companies. Now, these companies compete on a number of factors. As far as Herman Miller goes, they have excellent product and service quality, superior design. Their lean manufacturing techniques lead to quicker lead times and good speed of delivery. All these advantages do come at a higher price. But Herman Miller is trying to expand its retail and home market and serve the low price points. Now we're going to move to Anissa with our investment risks.
The first investment risk that we talked about was the economic downturn. Since the US office industry is highly related to the US economy and highly correlated, as you will see later, it is also subject to a downturn. As for reserves, most banks have pulled back on credit, which caused to be a problem for Herman Miller and also for its consumers in terms of credit. There are also several there could be a possibility of unsuccessful growth strategies. Herman Miller's strategy right now is try to move into international markets, try to move into the healthcare and education sector besides just the office industry. But moving into international economies could prove to be a problem because it has several economic, political, and legal risks that are involved, and they also share a foreign exchange risk. When it comes to disruptions in supply chain, there could be several dealer disruptions which could affect the whole supply chain and network of Herman Miller. As for commodity prices, since Herman Miller depends on aluminum, steel, and plastic, the increase in the prices of these commodities could also affect the prices of their products, hereby increasing them. There are also several costs related to their product warranty and liabilities. As for employment, Herman Miller has a very sophisticated technologies, as Weston said, that he had the Toyota manufacturing system, which requires higher skilled workers, and higher skilled workers require higher compensation costs. In relation to health insurance, Herman Miller has a medium covered insured risk, but in the case of any catastrophe, they would find it difficult to cover these risks. In relation to pension expenses, Herman Miller employees are under a defined benefit plan, but this is subject to all market volatility of the assets that they hold in the trust. We therefore come by a recommendation of a buy with the price of 21.96. Herman Miller's sales over the last year has increased by 330 million, and their sales outside the US is about 23% of their revenue. So we recommend that Herman Miller further ventures into healthcare and education and also to residential construction. And this would offset the volatility factors. Moving on to Catherine, who will talk about valuation.
So there are two valuation methods that we use. They are the discounted cash flow as well as comparative analysis. First, a discounted cash flow. We look with a top-down approach first. We took the estimated growth figures for the US GDP from the Conference Board Organization. Then we looked at 10-year historical data from BIFMA. Consequently, we calculated the Herman Miller forecast for the sales. So first, we wanted to establish the correlation between the US GDP to the industry consumption, and we ran a regression analysis, and it came up with a strong correlation of 0.75. We then want to see what's the correlation between the industry consumption to Herman Miller sales, and we ran a regression analysis, and it had a strong correlation of 0.61. So we want to see what's the estimated sales for this year before forecasting the next 5 years. And we took the market share of Herman Miller with that to the industry consumption, and it came about to $1.4 billion. So this is the discounted cash flow that we did. We projected the following 5 years based on a line of estimate. We ran the EBITDA margin forecast against its sales, its capex against its investing activities to see the growth. The dividends has been stable. I'd like to draw your attention to the last few lines. We estimated a perpetual growth rate of 3%, and we calculated the present value of firm about 1.5 billion, netting it of its debt. We got present value of equity about 1.2 billion, and a value per share of $20.88. Moving on to competitive analysis, we look at two other key competitors, H&I and Steelcase. There are a few peer multiples comparison that we did, and I'd like to draw your attention to the enterprise value, EPS, PE, and the EBO EBITDA. The reasons for us using this is because we did a price multiple valuation, and we came to a price target of $22.95. We also did a discounted EB, and we discounted it with a factor of its corporate tax rate as well as WACC, and it yielded a target price of $23.15. moving on to our weighted target price, we place the most weightage on our discounted cash flow valuation because it's the most solid valuation method that we use, as it includes the fundamentals. 20% went to price multiple because it's a more instinctive valuation method that we use, and there's also possible underestimation of growth. The discounted EV is a less conservative method. I'll let you explain about that. And we came multiplying it with their respective weightages. We came to our buying price of $21.96. There are, however, some caveats I'd like to draw to mind that the economic conditions might hinder Herman Miller's sales. However, Herman Miller has strong fundamentals that would be able to prove otherwise. We also have a conservative prediction for target price range of $20.85 to $23.05. In conclusion, we believe that Herman Miller has a potential upside of 3% to 5%. Thank you very much, and we would like to open the floor to questions.
I'll start out. If I'm looking at the run the company's had here since the beginning of the year and I've got an upside price target of 23, should I be patient here on the company and wait potentially for a little bit of a pullback here? What would you see as a downside price target? I mean, everything else is pretty compelling, but is there a downside where that I'd be a more enthusiastic buyer? Because my upside really at 23 seems to cap me a little bit.
Yes, we believe that there will be a downside, probably a low drop to about $20.85. So as of now, the current price is about $21, about there. So we may be able to be patient when their future earnings may be announced. EPS may seem a little lower as their acquisitions be finalized, and that would probably be a good time to buy.
On your modest growth assumptions, 3 to 5%, what are you using for hurdle rate? You had to surpass in order to get a buy signal. Did you have a hurdle rate that you had to meet before you decided on a buy?
No, we actually didn't take that into consideration.
So you're just comfortable with 3 to 5%?
We're looking at the economic conditions, yes.
Based on the 2011 growth, the estimation by IMF seems to be about 2.5 to 2.9% of the US economy. Based on that, we thought that would be a reasonable assumption.
On a relative basis, what is the price earnings ratio? I know one of the methods you use for valuation is PE analysis. What is their historical PE been, historical range, and where are they relative to that range?
Yes, it's been, sorry, let me ask, you're asking what is the range of your?
Of the PE.
It's been about 15 times, it's about there.
And historically, over the last 10 years, some longer period of time, what's the range been? So if it's at 15 now, and you're using a terminal PE right now at 15, correct?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
And just in terms of its range, in terms of what the PE range has been, and is 15 high, is 15 low relative to where
it's average.
Average, it's an average, okay. But in the highs and lows?
I think.
We actually haven't established, we took that into consideration.
And how is that valuation at 15, is that consistent with the other companies in the industry? Well, you used HNI and Steelcase as proxy.
Yeah, they're very close.
Now, the government represents about 15% of their business with the slowdown that we're seeing at both the federal level and the state and local level. What kind of impact do you see that slowdown in your largest customer and that potential order flow? What kind of impact does that have on your outlook for the company and the potential pricing of the company?
Well, I think they intend to keep their current share of U.S. government contracts, which may be lowering in volume. However, their main strategy is diversifying into new markets. So I think it's not going to be as big of a factor as it should be. Herman Miller's strategy is obviously to move away from that dependency.
Yeah, right now it's about half of their revenue with the US government as well as the US office furniture industry, which is the precise reason why they want to diversify.
Now, in regard to their international business, I guess 23% of the business is outside the U.S. What are the key drivers for growth away from the U.S. and where are the risks for that international exposure?
In terms of international exposure, I think one of the big things is the foreign exchange risk. Also getting into a new different economy and determining how they're going to distribute, whether through, they already distribute in the Middle East, and in China they acquired Posh, which is not a very big company, but they're starting out moving into those emerging markets. So they're starting small, which is one of the reasons I feel that it will work, because they're having a slow start, not massive acquisitions as much as Nimshop probably was.
Yeah, they've been using strategic manufacturing positions in like Europe, and then acquisitions like Posh is a direct line to the Chinese market, and also they directly advertise some of those products there. So,
What's their outlook for Europe based on the challenges that European economy face?
well, I would assume it's less focused due to Europe's current situation and lower GDP growth. So I'm assuming they're going to focus more on the Asian markets right now.
Given some of the issues that Toyota's had over the last year with their supply chain interruptions coming not only from Japan but also the flooding in Thailand, you've made a strong case that Herman Miller's Toyota manufacturing, the Herman Miller manufacturing system, is a key driver for their success. Given some of the issues that Toyota had with the same, essentially, system in terms of their supply chain, are you concerned about Herman Miller having this same kind of supply chain issues, given they've so closely followed the methods of Toyota?
It took about at least 5 years for Toyota to actually implement that manufacturing system into Herman Miller, but Herman Miller is also spending a lot of money on research and development, looking into how they could further improve their process. So it's not just dependent on Toyota anymore. They're more trying to get it more in-house and move forward from there.
I think an integration with their supply chain and to where they're at currently is helping with that as well. So they're not currently focused on one particular supply, whether it be steel or aluminum, but they can get those from other supply chains if necessary.
Some of their main manufacturing centers are in the US, the UK, as well as China. So they're broadening them.
Within your assumptions for growth, going to these new international markets and maybe acquisitions, can that be all funded internally? Or is there a need to raise capital to do some of these acquisitions?
Actually, the acquisition of Nimshop was majority a cash purchase, but they did also issue stock as well for that. So there was no debt involved other than raising the capital.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.